Have you ever lost something and could not understand why? A door you knocked on again and again that never opened. A dream you worked for with everything you had that disappeared in a single moment. A person you loved who walked away and never came back. At that moment, life felt cruel. Life felt unfair. Life felt like it had forgotten about you completely. But what if it had not? What if that closed door was protecting you from a room you were never meant to enter? What if that loss, that failure, that painful delay was not the end of your story? What if everything happens for a reason, and the reason is always working in your favor, even when you cannot see it? My name is Daan, and today I want to share with you a powerful story of a young man named Daan who lost everything in one day and found something the whole world could not give him. Stay until the end, because Daan's story might change the way you see your own. In a small village at the foot of a green mountain, where the roads were made of earth and the houses were made of stone, there lived a young man named Daan. Daan was 22 years old. He was not the richest man in the village. He was not the most powerful. But he had something most men in the village envied. He had a plan. For 3 years, Daan had worked at the village mill, saving every coin every week without fail. He had a dream of opening his own small shop at the crossroads outside the village, a place where travelers could buy food, medicine, and supplies. He had chosen the location. He had spoken to the landlord. He had counted his savings 3 times, just to be certain. The morning he finally walked to the landlord's house, with 3 years of savings in a small cloth bag. He was smiling wider than he had smiled in years. He knocked on the door. The landlord opened it and looked at Daan with an expression Daan had not expected. "I am sorry," the landlord said quietly. "I sold the space yesterday. A merchant from the city offered twice the price." Daan stood very still. He looked down at the cloth bag in his hands. 3 years. 3 years of waking before sunrise. 3 years of dry bread and no celebrations. 3 years of one goal, gone in a single sentence. He walked home slowly. He sat outside his house until the sun went down. And that night, he asked the sky a question he did not expect to be answered. Why? I did everything right. I worked hard. I was patient. I was honest. Why did this happen to me? The sky gave him no answer. But life, quietly, invisibly, had already begun to arrange one. The next morning, Daan made a decision. He would leave the village, not forever, but long enough to find a new direction. His mother held his hands at the doorway. "Where will you go?" she asked. "I don't know yet," Daan said honestly. "But staying here right now, looking at that empty crossroads every morning, will break me." She said nothing, but she pressed a small piece of bread into his hands and let him go. Daan walked for 2 days along the mountain road that connected his village to the towns beyond the valley. He carried nothing but his savings and a quiet, heavy feeling in his chest that he could not name. On the second evening, as the sun dropped behind the mountains, he came to a small roadside settlement, a cluster of 4 or 5 houses, a water well in the center, an old woman sitting on a wooden bench outside the largest house. She looked at him the way old people sometimes look at young people who are lost, not with pity, but with recognition. "You look like someone who just lost something important," she said. Daan stopped walking. "I did," he said. "Sit down," she said simply. Her name was Noor. She was 70 years old. She had lived in this roadside settlement her entire life. Daan sat across from her and told her everything. The 3 years of saving, the landlord's door, the merchant from the city, the question he had asked the sky. Noor listened without interrupting. When Daan finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Can I tell you something that happened to me 50 years ago?" Daan nodded. "When I was your age, I had saved enough money to buy a piece of land on the other side of the valley. Good land, flat, near the river. I had planned every detail. The crops I would grow, the house I would build." She paused. "The week before, I was ready to buy. The land was taken by someone else. I cried for 3 days. I thought my life was finished." Daan looked at her carefully. "What happened?" he asked. "I had no choice but to stay here," she said, gesturing to the small settlement around them. "This crossroads, these 4 houses. I was furious. I felt completely forgotten by God." She smiled slowly. 2 years later, the river flooded. The land I had wanted to buy, the good flat land near the river, was underwater for 6 months. The man who bought it lost everything. Silence, and this crossroads, where I was so unhappy to be stuck, became the main road between 3 growing towns. Every traveler, every merchant, every family passed through here. She looked at Daan directly. "I built the most successful provision store in this entire valley, right here, in the place I once thought was my punishment." Daan stared at the road in front of him. "Everything happens for a reason," he said quietly, almost to himself. Noor nodded once. "But we are always too close to the pain to see the reason clearly." Daan stayed in the settlement for 3 days. He helped Noor carry water from the well. He repaired a broken window on her house. He sat with her in the evenings and listened. On the 3rd morning, he woke early and walked alone to the edge of the road. He stood there watching the travelers pass. Merchants with heavy carts, families walking between villages, workers heading to the towns beyond the valley. He watched them for a long time. And slowly, quietly, an idea began forming. Not the shop he had originally planned, something different. He noticed that travelers on this road had nowhere to stop. No food, no water, no shelter from the rain, no place to rest tired feet before continuing. The crossroads he had lost in his own village. He had been thinking too small. This road, this real road, needed exactly what he had been planning to offer. He walked back to Noor's house. "How much would you charge?" he said carefully, "for the use of that empty shed behind your house?" Noor looked at him for a moment. Then she smiled, the way someone smiles when they see exactly what they were hoping to see. "For you," she said, "nothing. But I want 20% of whatever you earn." Daan laughed for the first time in days. "Done," he said. The shed was small. The start was difficult. Daan cleaned it himself. He built 2 simple wooden shelves. He arranged his supplies carefully: bread, dried fruit, water, candles, medicine. The first week, only 3 travelers stopped. The second week, 7. The third, 15. Word spread, the way word always spreads on a road that is used every day. "There is a young man at the crossroads. Honest prices, fresh bread. He remembers your name the second time you pass." By the end of the first month, Daan had earned more than he had ever made at the mill. By the end of the 3rd month, he had expanded into the shed next door. By the end of the year, he had built a small room where tired travelers could sleep safely through the night. Noor sat on her bench one autumn evening, watching Daan serve a family of 5, laughing with the children, helping the father with a heavy bag. She called him over when they left. "Do you remember," she said, "the door that closed on you?" Daan nodded. "If it had opened," she said slowly, "you would be running a small shop at a quiet crossroads in your village, selling to the same 20 families every week." She looked at the road, at the steady stream of travelers, at the life Daan had built. Instead, The closed door brought you here, to the road that connects 3 towns, to more people than your village could have given you in a lifetime. She looked at him. Everything happens for a reason, Daan. The difficulty is that the reason never arrives at the same time as the pain. That evening, Daan sat down and wrote a letter to his mother. He described the road, the shed, the travelers, Noor, the family of 5 who had stayed the night, the merchant who had shaken his hand and called him the most honest young man on this mountain. At the end of the letter, he wrote, "Mama, I used to lie awake angry at the door that closed. Now, I understand that it did not close to hurt me. It closed to send me somewhere better. I am well. I am exactly where I am supposed to be. Everything happened for a reason. And the reason was this." He folded the letter, and for the first time since the morning he had walked to the landlord's door with 3 years of savings, he felt completely, deeply at peace. And here is what Daan's story teaches us. We are all so quick to judge our pain. When a door closes, we call it rejection. When a plan fails, we call it defeat. When life changes without our permission, we call it unfair. But what if we are judging too soon? What if the job you did not get was keeping you from the one you were built for? What if the person who left was making space for someone real? What if the delay, the failure, the closed door was not life working against you, but life working for you in a direction you could not yet see? Everything happens for a reason, not because life is perfect, but because life is always building something, even in the moments when it feels like it is taking everything away. Daan did not choose to lose his shop, but that loss chose him, because what was waiting on the other side was bigger than anything he had planned.